Okay, there we go. So I've just started it there. So for exercise 4.3, this is the last one, 1H. Okay, we're starting off with these three denominators. Now, like we did when it was just expressions with fractions, right? Before you find your LCD, I say please factorize, because if you factorize, then your LCD will be less complicated. Now, we are going to go through the test in detail tomorrow, but some of you actually didn't factorize, and some of you ended up with like x to the 4s and stuff in your LCD. And when you multiply it out at the top, x to the 4s, x to the 6s, all right? Some of you have the algebraic capabilities to work that out, but sure, why put yourself through that? Okay, that's it. So with these types of questions, guys, whenever you're working with equations or expressions with fractions, and you have multiple terms in the denominators, first factorize those denominators if you can. All right, so I'm going to write that on the side. That is before you even start thinking of solving this equation, right? You just want to actually simplify it a bit so you factorize all the denominators that you can. And guys, in some cases, it actually happens in the case as well. Once you factorize the one fraction, you could cancel out the numerator and the denominator. Many of you didn't do that. Okay, so we need to try and work smarter, not harder. We need to try and simplify as far as possible before we start multiplying by things and multiplying out and solving for x. All right, so guys, I factorized my three denominators. Are we fine with these three factorizing here? Right, these three denominators. Now we look at our brackets that we have here. We see that 2x minus 3 has to be in my denominator. Remember when we have algebraic denominators, all the variables, all the numbers, firstly, all the variables to their highest exponents and all the brackets to their highest exponents must be in the LCD. So 2x minus 3 must be in the LCD. I'm writing that down, sir. What other brackets do I have? X plus 1. That must be in my LCD. What else? There's another x plus 1. Guys, just if it's 2x plus 1, that doesn't mean I'm going to put it in my LCD twice. All right? If it was an x plus 1 squared, then I would have to put the squared in my LCD. Okay, but there's one x plus 1, another x plus 1. That's fine. I already put x plus 1 in my denominator. There's an x minus 1, right? X minus 1 is supposed to be in my LCD. And then further on, do I have other brackets? 2x minus 3 is already there. X minus 1 is already there. Okay, so all of the brackets that you have in your various denominators have to be in your LCD. Is that clear? Okay, now, guys, when it's an equation with fractions, remember we did a note on the difference between an expression and an equation. When it's an expression, you write all of them over the LCD. When it's an equation, you multiply every term by the LCD. Okay, we're not going to write every term over the LCD. We're actually going to multiply every term by the LCD. So that means that this, I'm going to say, times 2x minus 3, x plus 1, x minus 1. My first term I have to multiply by the LCD. Okay? Second term, I also have to multiply by the whole LCD. I'm writing all three of those brackets. And it does help to actually write them down. You don't have to, but especially in the beginning, it's helpful. Same thing with my last term. I have to multiply every term by, even if some of your terms weren't fractions, you still would have had to multiply all of your terms by the LCD. Now what happens if we're looking at our first term? Do we see that there's a 2x minus 3 at the top and at the bottom? They cancel out. There's an x plus 1 bracket at the top and the bottom. They cancel out. Do I still have a fraction? No, that's the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD, right? So that we can cancel out the denominator. So what am I actually left with here? 1 times x minus 1, which is what? What's 1 times x minus 1? just x minus 1. Okay, that is what's left from that first fraction. And I multiply by the alpha e, I could cancel out the two brackets at the bottom. Next one, 2x minus 3. Is there 2x minus 3 at the bottom? No. X plus 1, there is an x plus 1 at the bottom that can cancel out, and an x minus 1. So what's left from my second fraction? 2 times 2x minus 3. You can multiply that 2 into that bracket straight away if you want. I'm going to write it out like that at first. Equals, from the next one here, the 2x minus 3 bracket at the top is going to cancel out the 1 at the bottom. Then the x minus 1 at the top is going to cancel out the x minus 1 at the bottom. I am left with 3 times x plus 1. All right, so now we have very much simplified the equation. Now it's just a linear equation with brackets, yes, but I think we all can deal with that. So we have x minus 1 plus 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. That is then equal to 3 times x is 3x. So I'm multiplying that 3 in, and 3 times 1 is 3. All right, now I need to get x's on the one side, everything else on the other side. X plus 4x is 5x, and then this 3x, when I move it, is going to become minus 3x, right? So what's 5x minus 3x? 2x equals, I have a 3 on this side. This minus 1 is going to become plus 1. What's 3 plus 1? 4. And then this minus 6 is going to become plus 6. What's 4 plus 6? 10. So that gives me an answer of x equal to 5. I'm going to make you guys practice some more of these now, okay? So that you, if you maybe weren't able to do this, you can do it at home. All right, there is one thing that we just need to talk about with these types of equations. Now, please, sometimes you'll get answers that are not valid. And you need to know how to identify that. Now, guys, if I'm looking at my factorized equation, right? The equation where I factorize all of my denominators. If I'm looking at this bracket, for example, if x is negative 1, what is this bracket going to be equal to? Negative 1 plus 1 is 0, which is going to make my whole denominator, what's 0 multiplied by a bracket? 0, which is going to make my whole denominator 0. Can I have that? Can I have a denominator that's equal to 0? No. So guys, in this case, x can't possibly be negative 1, right? Because that will make this denominator equal to 0 and that denominator equal to 0. What other values can x not be equal to? No, x can be 0. Well, it won't make it equal, but just if you're looking at the bracket, yes, can? 1.5, yes, 3/2, right? If we look at this bracket, guys, which x value will make this bracket equal to 0? I'm just going to write you on the side, 2x minus 3 equal to 0. All right, you'll take that 3 over, and then you'll divide by 2. So if x is 3/2, right, 1.5, 1.5, that will make that bracket equal to 0, which will make my whole denominator equal to 0. And it will make that bracket equal to 0, which will make this whole denominator equal to 0. So guys, if we got an answer of x equals 3/2, that's actually not valid. What else? Yes, Josh? It also can't be positive 1, right? This bracket x minus 1, which x value will make this bracket equal to 0? 1. Right? So if you got that x is 1, this also wouldn't have been a possible answer. So guys, I want you to just write at the bottom here, make a star and say in B, check answer. If the value of x makes any denominator, I'm just going to write denom, all right, equal to 0, then that answer is invalid. Okay, so guys, say that happened, right? Say in this question here at the top, we calculated x and we got that x is equal to 1. Okay, that would be your answer. Then you would have to check. You would say, oh no, x equals 1 makes one of my brackets in the denominator equal to 0, right? Then you're going to draw a line through that equals to show that x actually can't be equal to 1. But guys, if x can't be equal to the answer that you got, is there an answer? No. So then you're going to say, therefore, no solution. So that is then what you would have to write. So that would be an extra mark, guys. If you left it as x equals 1, all right, you will lose 1 mark. But obviously, we are in the 80th step, we want to try to get all the marks that we can. Yes? No, they actually is. It's an impossible thing. You just think like you can't, how do you divide something by nothing? Right? It's just like it's you can't do it. Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay, guys, so this is something that you need to look out for, all right, please. And it only happens with these where you have variables in the denominator. Okay, it doesn't happen in any of the questions that you have to do for homework, but I'm going to give you some more now to practice. We're actually not going to start anything new. I want us all to be okay with this, because guys, in grade 11, you're going to get more of these equations. In grade 12, you're still going to have to be able to do these equations, all right? So grade 10 is where we need to lay this foundation. Okay, so. I'm just looking at the club now. All right, guys, so from the same exercise, right? Again, from exercise, actually, wait. Hang on. I might have changed my mind. Just hang on. No. Just from a different exercise. You say, man? Yes. Yeah, sure. Okay, guys, from the check your skills exercise, check your skills. Oh, check your skills. Yeah. Which is on page 99. And these ones aren't too hectic. I'm just going to give you 2 of these, but then just from the other exercise. So one is I need to separate the other one. So just F and G, those ones aren't too bad. And then sorry, this exercise now has disappointed me. So we will have to go back to exercise 4.3 just for a nice difficult one. Number what's actually on that? Okay, so J, K, and L. Does that mean that we get this course in the grade 11? Well, it's just one, that's the thing. I don't know why they have one, but they know 2. All right, guys, start working on that now, please. You can absolutely finish it in the just over half an hour that you have left. Remember that tomorrow you are getting your AP cuts. You're going to get a week to do that. Now, guys, in the AP cuts, I just